Captain Marvel is still shaken after seeing a dark future where most of her friends died because she wasn't there to help. She also learned that her relationship with James Rhodes was never meant to last, as he had a family without her. She only made it back because her close friend Jessica Drew sacrificed herself, and now these painful memories follow Carol into her dreams. Her mind is trapped in the nightmare of a ruined future where New York lies shattered under a burning red sky. She stands amid the wreckage, straining to hold up a massive concrete beam as debris rains down around her, thinking to herself, "This is it. This is how it ends." Smoke and fire fill the air as she notices Captain America impaled nearby, blood soaking into the rubble beneath him. She drops to him in shock, whispering, "Steve," before the weight of it all crashes down on her. Her thoughts spiral as she realizes even he didn't survive, and she breaks down, overwhelmed, believing it's all too much to bear. As tears fall, guilt consumes her completely, and she questions her very presence in this moment, wondering why she's even there when everyone said she wasn't on the planet when everything went wrong and how something this horrible was ever allowed to happen. The nightmare doesn't give her time to breathe. A blinding blast slams into Captain Marvel, hurling her through shattered stone as the pain tears through her, the thought flashing through her mind that hurt too much. Then she hears her name being shouted, a familiar voice cutting through the chaos, and she instinctively wants to deny it, thinking, "No," even before she turns. When she looks up and recognizes Clint and the others, panic takes over. She shouts at them to run, warning that Ove is already there and that he's already blasted her to hell, and that they have to get out while they still can. The survivors emerge from the wreckage: Black Widow, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, Misty Knight, Shang-Chi, and Dazzler, each battered, exhausted, and barely holding together. Hawkeye is clearly wounded, blood running down as he turns toward her asking why she didn't stop this and tells her that none of it had to happen. He reminds her that she could have ended Ove before everything even began. Natasha steps in as well, telling Carol that she's doomed them all. Before Carol can answer or defend herself, the moment collapses into horror as another devastating beam tears through the group, wiping them out in an instant, bodies disintegrating, voices silenced, and the last of the survivors erased right in front of her eyes. The nightmare shatters and Carol jolts awake in New York City, a world that is definitely not the apocalyptic wasteland of 2052, at least not yet. She bolts upright in bed, gasping as she cries out, "No!" Sitting on the edge of the mattress, she tries to steady her breathing, but the weight of what she's seen presses down harder with every second. She admits to herself that these nightmares are only getting worse. That after everything she survived, this feels different. More personal, more suffocating. The thought keeps looping in her head that her guilt is driving all of it, that she can't let go because she knows where it leads. In the quiet of the room, Carol confronts the fear she can't outrun, that it's her fault she didn't stop Ove before he came here, and if he succeeds, billions will die. As the realization sets in, she's left staring at the floor, wondering if she can live with herself knowing she might not be able to stop it. Later, Carol sits across from Jessica Drew with coffee between them, trying to put words to the nightmares that refuse to leave her alone. She explains the future she saw, one that isn't far away at all, where nearly everyone dies, and Jessica pauses, quietly asking if that really means everyone. Carol admits that not everyone is lost, telling her that Jessica survives, which earns a strained, sarcastic response meant to lighten the moment, but the humor doesn't stick. Carol pushes back, making it clear this isn't like the usual chaos they face, because this time it will be her fault. She lists the names that still haunt her: Rhodey, Roger, Steve, Clint, Jen, almost everyone, and explains that Ove only won because she let him get away, because he got exactly what he wanted. Seeing how deep the guilt runs, Jessica shifts gears, urging her to think proactively and asking how he actually won, why it happened at all. Carol goes still, her expression changing as the answer finally clicks into place, and she looks up with widened eyes and says one word: magic. Captain Marvel and Jessica Drew stand outside the Sanctum Sanctorum, both already in costume. Carol immediately admits this was a bad idea, while Jessica reminds her that Carol was the one who said magic, and this is where magic lives. Jessica questions why they're even suited up. Carol explains that with this, Strange will know this is business. Jessica questions what else it could possibly be, pointing out that she's already knocked and refuses to play ding-dong ditch with Stephen Strange, joking that it would only start a prank war she could never win. Carol grows more nervous by the second, insisting it's going to be awkward and trying to leave until Jessica freezes mid-sentence, hands flying to her mouth in shock. The realization hits her all at once. Carol slept with Stephen Strange. Before Carol can respond, the door opens. Dr. Strange stands there and calmly addresses them as, "Ladies." Both Carol and Jessica immediately give awkward forced smiles, the kind that come from being caught in a conversation they absolutely were not ready to finish. Jessica stumbles through an uncomfortable greeting, while Strange turns and invites them inside with a casual good morning. Carol, still visibly stiff and embarrassed, mutters that it's actually 2 in the afternoon. Inside the Sanctum, Dr. Strange casually shrugs off the concept of time, setting the tone immediately. Carol dryly acknowledges it, realizing exactly what kind of mood he's in, while Jessica, completely unable to let things go, starts firing questions about when this happened and how. Carol tries to shut it down, asking if this is really the moment for that conversation, while Strange warns them not to speak to the snakes lining the room. Carol cuts him off mid-warning, already familiar with the rule, insisting they aren't talking to the snakes anyway. The snakes, of course, respond instantly with open hostility, declaring they wouldn't talk to them even if they were the last humans on Earth. Jessica, wide-eyed, suddenly connects the dots and blurts out that this is the reason Carol left Rhodey, sending the snakes into gleeful gossip mode. Carol snaps back hard, making it clear she didn't break up with Rhodey just to hook up with Stephen Strange. While Jessica tries to soften it, explaining it's because something in the future forced Carol's hand. The snakes eat it up, calling it drama. Carol finally explains that in the future, Rhodey has a daughter who isn't hers, and she refuses to stand in the way of that life. The snakes declare the situation riveting, insisting it should be a human television show. Carol finally snaps, pointing directly at the magical snakes and shutting them down. "Hey, enough from the cheap seats." The snakes react with dramatic offense, loudly insisting that they are not cheap and are insanely expensive and declaring themselves deeply offended, then immediately getting distracted by how empowering it feels to be offended. As Carol and Jessica move further inside with Dr. Strange, the snakes continue bickering amongst themselves, questioning whether they're actually expensive or if it just feels right to say they are. Away from the noise, Jessica presses Carol again. Carol tries to brush it aside, insisting now isn't the time, but Jessica points out that there will never be a later. There will always be another emergency. Carol reluctantly admits she's not wrong, though she's still asked to delay the conversation. Jessica sighs and agrees, but firmly states that this talk will happen. Just then, Jessica's phone rings. One glance at the screen and her expression drops. She has to go. Carol protests immediately, clearly not ready to be left alone with Dr. Strange. Jessica slips out in a hurry, calling back an apology as she leaves Carol behind. The room suddenly feels quieter. Carol turns toward Dr. Strange with an awkward, half-embarrassed smile, trying to recover from everything that just happened. Strange meets it with a calm greeting, then gently but directly steers things back on track, asking if they can move past the slightly insulting chit-chat and get to the real reason she's here. Carol exhales and admits her life is a mess right now, something she suspects he already knows. Strange doesn't press her on that, only telling her to explain why she came. Carol clasps her hands together, hesitates for just a beat, and then says it plainly. She needs him to teach her magic. For a moment, Strange just stares at her. Then he breaks into loud, uncontrollable laughter. Carol glares at Dr. Strange until his laughter finally dies out. "Oh, you're serious?" Carol just replies with, "Yeah." Strange refuses outright. Then no. When asked why, he explains that Carol has no natural affinity for magic. It isn't her thing, and adds, without trying to soften it, that she lacks the patience required for it. He counts the reasons off on his fingers, emphasizing that learning magic takes literal decades. And even if she's somehow committed to that, whatever crisis she's facing would be long past by the time she finished training. Carol tries to interrupt, but Strange stops her and continues. He says that, even more importantly, if magic is a vulnerability for her and she's trying to erase that weakness, that might actually be dangerous. Someone as powerful as Carol, he argues, should have limits. Weaknesses matter. Carol snaps back that it's a little insulting, but she doesn't have time to argue about feelings. Her weakness, she insists, is exactly what dooms everyone. She tells him she's seen it happen. She was in the future and billions died. And finally gets Strange's full attention. His expression changes. He looks directly at her and says, "I'm listening." 20 minutes later, Carol Danvers sits across from Stephen Strange at the kitchen table, still shaken. Stephen speaks calmly, explaining that what she's experiencing is very real trauma, misplaced guilt, lingering fear, maybe even PTSD from the dreams that keep pulling her back to that ruined future. He tells her that learning magic won't fix it, reminding her that the future she saw was only one of countless possibilities. It's difficult even for people who can actually see and travel through time. Without trying to insult her, he gently says, "With no disrespect intended, you're playing above your pay grade." Carol immediately replies, "Oh yeah? That's not insulting at all." Stephen doesn't back down. He tells her plainly, "Don't be a baby. I'm not capable of doing what you do, and you are not capable of doing what I do. We all have our roles." Carol challenges him, asking if they should never step outside those roles. Strange answers honestly that they should, just not now. Frustration finally breaks through her composure as she pleads, "Come on, help me, please." Her voice softening as she says, "Stephen, I need you to help me. I don't know what else to do." That lands. Stephen exhales, clearly conflicted, then finally gives in with a tired, "Fine." But he adds one condition. She can't wear that uniform, because it would make her stand out immediately. Carol's tension melts into a small, relieved smile as she agrees without hesitation, answering simply, "No problem." Out on the city streets, Carol walks beside Stephen in her wizard outfit, the cloak and hood doing a decent job of hiding who she really is. She turns slightly toward him, clearly fishing for approval, and asks if it looks good. Stephen hesitates before admitting, "It's not bad." She teases him about the look being moody and dark, proudly pointing out the hood because, as she insists, wizards love hoods. After a beat of resistance, Stephen concedes with a resigned acceptance, "Fine, we do." As they continue down the sidewalk, Carol asks how far they still have to go, wondering if flying would be faster. Stephen shuts that down immediately, telling her they're almost there and to stay quiet. They turn into a narrow alley, and Carol glances around, asking if she's even allowed to be here. Stephen answers by opening a glowing portal in midair and calmly assures her that guests of the Sorcerer Supreme are always welcome. They step through the portal together. Stephen finishes the thought aloud, "In the bar with no doors." Inside, the place feels strange but alive. Dim lights, magical patrons, and an atmosphere that hums with quiet rules everyone seems to understand. Stephen immediately lays one of those rules out, explaining there's a strict no Loki policy, enforced by a magical combination lock ever since Loki disappeared the last bar with no doors. Carol takes that in and nods, admitting it makes sense. She jokes that if she could, she'd put a no Loki spell on her own apartment too. As they walk deeper inside, Carol notices two nearby doors, one clearly marked as a bathroom, the other bearing a cat symbol. She comments that a cat-specific bathroom is cool, very progressive. Stephen quickly shuts that idea down, telling her flatly, "It's not a bathroom." Carol immediately backpedals, asking if it has anything to do with snats, since she just dealt with them last week and makes it very clear she thinks they're the worst. Stephen can't help but smile as he agrees with Carol's frustration, adding that snats really are awful and casually pointing out that the acid they shoot somehow still smells like cat pee. Carol immediately agrees, shaking her head and calling it crazy, and Stephen follows that up by saying if that's not an example of horrible magic, he doesn't know what is. He then abruptly shifts the tone, telling her it's time to stop joking and focus because she needs to clear her mind. Carol, still half smiling, teases him by asking, "Oh, are you going to teach me magic now?" Stephen corrects her, "No, not really, but in a way," which only makes Carol admit that this is already super confusing. Stephen explains that magic is rooted in mental control, a clear mind, strong will, and absolute focus on a single goal. He tells her he needs her to do that now. Carol hesitates. He gently takes her face in his hands and explains that the room and the entity inside it are called the Schrödinger, where she must go in alone, bringing only her mind and memories. He makes it clear that if she wants an answer, she must think of only one question. Carol listens and says she understands. When Stephen asks if she has it, she answers, "I do." Carol steps inside alone, and the world around her dissolves into an endless white void. Confused by the emptiness, she looks around and wonders aloud if this means she's seeing the real version of herself, questioning if that's what she's supposed to take from this experience. A voice answers her, explaining that this is the self she brought into the room, the version shaped entirely by what she carried in her mind. As fragments of memories begin to surface around her, Carol grows skeptical, muttering that it looks like she's about to get some vague, cryptic nonsense instead of real help. The voice responds calmly that there is no help here, only perception. She starts to recognize the scenes forming around her and realizes they're moments pulled from the future. Before she can finish, Ove suddenly charges at her, slamming into her with brutal force. As the impact hits, Carol feels the pain fully and realizes with shock, "This is real. This feels real." Carol fights back, striking Ove with full force and sending him flying. Watching him fall, Carol starts to believe the room might be giving her what she needs. It's showing her how to beat Ove, giving her a second chance. She grabs Ove by the front, lifting him off the ground with one hand, fire crackling through her. But instead of acting, she freezes. The hesitation hits her all at once. "But I hesitate. Why?" Before she can act, green energy suddenly snaps into place around her, pinning her arms, crushing her down as panic floods in all at once. Inside her head, the realization hits hard. "No, this can't be happening. Not again." She screams, but nothing comes out of her mouth. Then she sees them. Figures begin to form around her, emerging from the nightmare future she can't escape. Survivors of 2052 stand in judgment. Emma Frost, James Rhodes, Jessica Drew, and the others she failed. Carol collapses to the ground under the weight of it all, no longer restrained by energy but by guilt. The thought repeats itself. "I failed them, and all of us here too." Before the vision can push Carol any further into despair, strong hands grip her face and pull her back to reality. Dr. Strange's voice cuts through, grounding her as he calls her name again and again. Carol's eyes snap open. Strange then asks what she saw. Carol doesn't hesitate, but her answer is hollow. She admits that it showed her nothing useful, nothing that helped her. Strange calmly explains that the room doesn't offer solutions, only reflections. It shows what a person brings into it. Carol pushes back. All the room did, she says, was confirm what she already believes, that stopping Ove means becoming something more. Magic. Immunity. Anything that makes her untouchable. She demands to know why Strange brought her here if he wasn't going to truly help her, pleading with him to do something more. Strange, still holding her face, tells her that this is him helping her, the best way he knows how. He explains that the room once helped him when his own mind was clouded by fear, shame, and guilt, and he hoped it could do the same for her. He admits, "I'm trying." For a moment, neither of them speak. They simply look at each other, then they kiss. Sudden, emotional, and unplanned. When it ends, Carol turns her back on him, already retreating, and says that if he won't help her, then she'll find someone who will. She walks away without looking back, leaving Strange standing alone behind her. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel.